Welcome to Getaway Day, episode 29. I'm Gotham, Mason and Matthew alongside. The postseason is in full swing. We're going to discuss the National League Division Series before they get started tomorrow. And before we get going on that, we're going to get into last night's National League wildcard game between the Cardinals and the Dodgers. The Cardinals were ousted by the Dodgers on a walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth inning with 2 outs by Chris Taylor. They won the game 3-1. We're going to go straight to Mason for the raw reaction here. I guess it's not so raw, but you have the floor. What do you want to talk about from this game?
Oh, goodness. So there's a couple things. So one, Wainwright was as advertised for 5 innings. Pitched great. He kept the Dodgers at bay, which is a really tough task. Scherzer, on the other hand, was kind of laboring through his 4 1/3 innings. The first two Matthew, we were talking during the game. It was like through 3 innings, he had thrown 64 pitches. Does that sound right?
Been over 70.
Okay, yeah,
and it was the second or third highest he'd thrown all season.
Yeah, through 3 innings, and so he was struggling. They were getting him into deep counts. The zone was tight from Joe West. It was actually probably Joe West's best called game in like the last 10 years, if you look at his umpire scorecard. So it was a pitcher's duel. The Cardinals had their opportunities. I think they went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position in that game last night.
I think it was 0 for 11 actually, because the only run scored by the Cardinals was in the first inning on a wild pitch. So that's the only run that they were able to push across the plate. But yeah, I agree that the biggest thing was that the offense didn't come through, and that at the same time the Dodgers bullpen did a really good job holding them in check. From Joe Kelly when he came in the tight spot in the 5th inning, and then the rest of the guys down the line. Blake Trinan, and then finishing up with Kenley Jansen there in the 9th inning. Matthew?
No, yeah, I mean, Dodgers did what they needed to do pitching, and the craziest thing is, if you're anyone but Max Scherzer and you have an off day like he was having, you're a well below average pitcher. But when Max Scherzer has an off day, he's still just now slightly above average, or slightly above good. So he labored through that, and it was impressive to watch, because you could clearly see, like we talked about, he did not have it. But still, when you go 4.1 innings and not having it, and still only let up 1 run against a Cardinals team that has been doing so well in the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, and the Cardinals always struggle against Max Scherzer. Literally, everyone in that lineup has terrible career numbers against Max Scherzer.
Pretty much everyone has terrible career numbers against him, though.
And so even with him laboring, they still couldn't get it done. And I mean, that Dodgers team is just so good. Everyone knew it coming into that game. It was going to be a really good game, and it was going to be really hard to score runs on the Dodgers. So it went within the realm of expectations. So coming out of that game, like, even as a Cardinal fan, yeah, I'm furious that they didn't win, because I would have loved to see him go on. But at the same time, I get it. We were off. They didn't play the best game they could, and you get knocked out because of it. But the thing I thought was interesting is watching on back-to-back days 2 elite pitchers being way off their game, and just how different that was. Because 2 nights ago, it was Garrett Cole, and he was off, and he looked bad. And then last night, you have Scherzer, who had been not pitching well the 2 starts before that. He'd given up 10 runs in 11 innings or something like that. And now he comes into this game, he's struggling, and he's still above average. And so it's just amazing to me to see those 2 juxtapositions. So.
Yeah, definitely agree.
I thought of, actually, is when you said that it's a long season, and last year only playing 60 games and then the playoffs, you wonder how many guys are just mentally and physically just exhausted at this point. And that's playing a full role here.
Yeah.
And Max Scherzer's old, but he always finds a way to push through like pretty much no one else can. And I wanted to get into the managerial decisions a little bit before we completely forget about this game. But Roberts takes Scherzer out after 4 1/3 after he's got a couple runners on base. Scherzer didn't want to give him the ball there. That was kind of funny. But was that the right move? Would you have been able to even go out there and pull that man, that scary, scary man?
I would have been intimidated, but I do think it was the right move for the Dodgers there. I was actually talking to Matthew. We watched the whole game together, and I was telling him that I probably would have pulled Scherzer about an inning before, or I would have thought about it at least. Just because the way he was looking, it looked like it was going to be a low-scoring game, and so you don't want to get those extra runners on base to give yourself another opportunity to have a pass ball score run. So I thought that maybe he left him in too long, but I mean, it worked out in the end. So kudos to Roberts for going out and taking him after 4 1/3.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the coin there, Schilt leaves Wainwright in the game to taking that bat with 2 outs after Bader had gotten hit by a pitch. So they essentially gave up that opportunity to score. I mean, the currency of baseball are the outs that you get. That was one opportunity that they had to, take the lead potentially with a home run from a pinch hitter. They send Wainwright back out, and he only ends up getting 1 more out. So from my perspective, I don't understand that, because if you're going to take out your pitcher at the first sign of trouble, at the first base runner, then why don't you just pull him before that inning in the first place?
Yep, I'm right there with you. If this was the 4th inning and Wainwright was still lower pitch count and looked like he was still cruising, I understand letting him bat. But he's already gone 5 innings. Pitch count was starting to get up there. It's a 1-game playoff. You're not looking to preserve a bullpen or anything. You have to give yourself the best chance to win, and in that case, it was using a pinch hitter.
Yeah, I didn't really get that move either. I get leaving Waino in if you're intending to leave him in, because he's been our best pitcher, period, this year. We haven't had a reliever as dominant as leaving him in with a high pitch count. So if the plan is to leave him in the whole 5th, okay, let him bat, I guess, because you don't really have any other choice. But if you're going to pull him in that inning anyway, yeah, it makes absolutely 0 sense. It just kind of shows me the kind of distrust Schilt had in the bullpen last night, that he didn't really want to go to the bullpen. He wanted to just throw Waino back out there, and I don't know if he was worried about having overused some of these guys here at the end of the season, trying to get back into the playoff race or what, but I don't know.
Yeah. You can't really worry about overuse, and pitch counts honestly don't matter in this game at all. So I think it's just his style of managing. He's definitely more traditional in the way he uses pitchers.
Yeah.
And usually has a pretty long leash, unlike Roberts, who usually will go to the bullpen pretty quickly. And he's gotten some flack for that, because it seems like he does it sort of robotically and doesn't really have a feel for the game situation, but I feel like he made the right call in this game.
Yeah, agreed.
It would have been interesting if the Dodgers didn't take the lead there in the 9th inning, because they said during the broadcast that they were carrying 16 position players.
Yeah.
So they were closing, and with pulling Scherzer in the 4th, they were closing in on using a lot of their relievers already.
Yeah, and I think they ended up actually using 14 of the 16 position players in the game. So why not use the whole bench? And then Chris Taylor didn't even start the game, and he ended up having a big catch in the outfield, and then, of course, the walk-off hit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Can we all agree that one of the best parts of the game, though, was Juan Soto behind home plate?
No, because he was supporting the wrong former teammate.
Man, best teammate ever, man. Just shows up across the country to support his old teammates, and he was having the time of his life there. Yeah. Probably being a fan for like the first time in his life.
Matthew, I finally figured out who the old guy next to him was in the Scherzer jersey. It was the hitting coach for the Nationals.
Kevin Long.
So
gotcha. Yeah, I want Juan Soto as my hype man, though, because he gets excited. And they actually said that when he was after his first, or maybe during his 2nd year in the majors, he went back and watched a game at AA or AAA where a lot of his former teammates in the minors were playing, and so he got to go and support them there. So he's just a great guy.
Yeah. I would like to be his friend if that's at all possible. Can we make that happen? Juan Soto, friend of the pod. Doesn't that just sound awesome? But.
Yes. Okay, so let's hope that Soto keeps following the Dodgers' journey here. So they are moving on to face the San Francisco Giants in what is shaping up to be a heavyweight matchup, and it's going to be pretty awesome, I think. So Dodgers and Giants. The Giants had the best record in the major leagues. They won 107 games, the most in their franchise's history. The Dodgers won 106 games, which was tied for their franchise record in wins. So, I guess, what are you looking for in this game, Matthew?
This is a heavyweight matchup, and it's the most wins ever by two teams combined in the playoffs to face each other. At some point, it's almost a flip of the coin with who's going to win this, but big thing I'm going to watch is the Giants pitching, specifically Gausman there. He was a little inconsistent going down there to end the season. Gave up 3+ runs in 4 games in a row before finally settling down in the last couple. And if he can settle down and keep that momentum going, Giants got a good chance since Logan Webb apparently can't lose a ball game ever. So, it'll be interesting, but the Giants have a tough offense, and after being held to 1 run for 8 innings, I don't think they're going to let that happen too much longer.
Yeah, and those two pitching starters for the Giants definitely match up decently well with the Dodgers, but the Dodgers go 3 deep in terms of their really good starters with Buehler, Scherzer, and Urias. So I think the Dodgers obviously feel a lot better about playing in a 5-game series rather than the 1-game playoff because they get to show off their depth with the pitching. Because I'd say that the Dodgers probably have the best 3 starting pitchers available to any playoff team, maybe the Brewers, but I'd say the Dodgers are still probably up there. Mason?
Yeah, so I admittedly don't know much about the Giants pitching staff. That's just one of those things that the Giants this year have been kind of undersold the whole year that I have learned nothing about them. So my first inclination is that the Dodgers are probably the better pitching staff there because I don't know anyone past really Gausman and Webb and how well they've been doing. Desclafani is a pretty solid number 3 for them, but I don't know. But so really what I'm looking at now is which offense is going to be better because I think both pitching staffs are going to be pretty good in this series. And honestly, both of the lineups are pretty solid. The Dodgers do have a slightly better lineup, having 7 guys with a season WRC plus over 125 in Trey Turner, Corey Seager, Muncy, Pollock, Betts, Will Smith, and Justin Turner. And that's guys who have over 100 plate appearances with the Dodgers or more. And so I definitely think that I'm looking at can Belt, Ruff, Posey, Crawford, Longoria, and company keep up with that Dodgers lineup. Because after those 5, then you start getting into some of the more obscure names who have played incredibly well this year. Don't get me wrong. And Donnie Barrels, Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores has been kind of underrated, I think, this year a bit. So that's my key, is who has the better lineup in this series.
Yeah, that's going to be definitely one to watch. I think you're selling the Giants' overall offense a little bit short, though, right?
Probably am.
They're 5th in baseball in WRC plus. Obviously, I like to use that stat because it's just an all-encompassing offensive stat that corrects for the park that they play in. And then Boston was actually, or sorry, not Boston. LA was 7th in that. So they're very comparable, but the way they get there is very different, kind of like you mentioned, because the the Giants rely on so many different players to get little pieces of production, while the Dodgers kind of rely on their superstars, and they have quite a few of them to just carry the load, and that works for them, of course. But yeah, that's a great matchup to keep an eye on in this series.
Yeah, and I'm definitely with you there. I'm 100% selling the Giants short, as I think everyone's done all year. And it's just one of those things that, like, for as good as they've been underhyped like the entire year. So some of those guys that have been incredibly productive yet aren't superstars have not been getting the love and attention that they deserve from fans like me that don't really pay attention to the Giants. So.
Yeah. And just a little trivia question. I'm pretty sure I asked a similar question mid-season when we were talking about the Giants. Who can you name all the players that hit 15 home runs for this team?
Well, I have it pulled up right now, so probably. I actually clicked away from it. Crawford.
Crawford had 24.
Belt
had 29 to lead the team, but Belt's out for the series for sure.
That's a good point.
Big blow.
Did Ruff do it?
Ruff, yep, he had 16 home runs.
Alex Dickerson.
Nope, 13.
Dang.
Posey get over 15?
Posey had 18.
Longoria was out way too long, wasn't he?
Longoria had 13.
Yeah.
So so even below 15, they had quite a few, low teams kind of guys.
Who else had 15?
Mike Yastrzemski had 25. He seems like he's kind of turned the corner near the end of the season. So if they can get him going, that might replace some of the production that they're missing from Belt. Brandon Crawford, you said him. Posey, Lamont Wade had 18. Wilmer Flores had 18, and then Ruff had 16. So
okay. Yeah, so they're definitely just spreading the offense a little bit more. As opposed to the Dodgers that are just like, here's Mookie Betts, here's Chris Taylor, and they're just going to kill you. So,
right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, so then Mason, who is a player in the series that you are looking forward to watching and think can make a big impact?
So, for me, it's sounds like a cop-out answer, especially after last night, but for me, it's Chris Taylor. I think he's that player that the Dodgers kind of just live or die with, and they seem to live a lot more than they die. But he's not in the lineup every single night. He kind of plays every position. Right now, well, even last night, they didn't put him in the starting lineup, putting Matt Beatty at first and Cody Bellinger in center, which didn't make any sense to me. But Chris Taylor is so good that guy is probably going to be their postseason hero this year. I'm putting my money on it right now. So I think he's going to be the big key for the Dodgers lineup in this series.
Yeah, I mean, great pick. And the reason he was out of the lineup is because he really struggled in the last month or so. And I guess they just wanted to start him out on the bench. But I know Roberts has a ton of confidence in him still to put him in that game. And I'm sure he's going to play a role in the series.
Yeah.
How about you, Matthew?
I am going to go with Buster Posey. He obviously sat out last year and has looked like he's 25 again playing this year. But he has really struggled in the postseason. And he's obviously been to 3 World Series. But his postseason batting line is 248, 323, 325. So he only has a 649 OPS. The Giants are deep, like we just talked about. But with him having that experience, giving a normal Buster Posey effort would be huge for that team. And if he struggles, could be a waterfall for the other guys.
I would point out that even if he's not been good in the postseason historically, he still has 3 rings. So
No doubt.
they very well could win it, even if he's
Oh, no doubt, and he hasn't been there since 2016, so it's obviously been a while. But they can clearly win it with him doing poorly, but him doing well would be a huge boost.
Yeah. And there is something to be said there that even if he's doing poorly with the bat, he still makes a huge impact on that team just being behind the plate. I think he and Yachty are kind of those 2 guys that I think are kind of in baseball lore, or like the 2 guys that are most influential on a pitching staff, whether it can be quantified or not. So I do think that, yeah, I agree with you there. Even if his bat isn't there, he could still be impactful. But if his bat's there, they're in the promised land.
And he's been one of their best hitters, so you'd think you could expect it to keep going. I hope. Clearly, I'm rooting for the Giants here, but so you can probably feel a little bit of the chill in the air. You can see the leaves falling down. You can smell some pumpkin spice. That's not fall. That's the calendar flipping to Rufftober. Darren Ruff is going to be taking the postseason stage by storm, and he is going to be a household name by the end of October. So we talked about Brandon Belt's injury, so Ruff is probably going to get a little bit more go at first base, and I think he is going to be amazing because he was amazing this season, and the Giants put him exactly in the right positions to maximize his talents as a guy that gets on base a ton and then just mashes. He's hit like 54% hard hit rate this season, 14% barrel rate, the 16 home runs that we talked about. Obviously, he's going to probably mix in with Lamont Wade at first base. But when he gets his opportunity, I think he's going to make the most of it, just like he has all season. So get ready for October.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue as well as October does it?
Well, it might by the end of the month. You never know.
Yeah. We go from October straight into No Shave November?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything else on Dodgers-Giants before we get to the next series?
Just that it's going to be a hell of a series, and you don't want to miss even like a single inning of this series. If you can watch every bit of it, do it. It will be so worth it. It's the first time in MLB history that 2 teams with 107 wins have ever played each other, regular or postseason. Never happened. So
yeah, and we haven't even really gotten into the rivalry aspect of it. I mean, these are 2 of the biggest rivals in the sport, and they've never played in the postseason, so that's pretty awesome. It's kind of like Cubs-Cardinals back in 2015. A lot of hype around the series, and there's so many different storylines in there. Like Farhan Zaidi used to be the GM of the Dodgers. Now he's running the show for the Giants. Dave Roberts. Yeah, the Alex Wood revenge game.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously the biggest storyline of the series. And then Dave Roberts used to play for the Giants, and it probably goes on and on. We're going to uncover those as we go through this week and a half or so. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, same.
Okay, we'll move on to the Brewers and the Braves, the other National League series here. Braves 88-73, plus 134 run differential. Brewers 95-67, won the NL Central with a plus 115 run differential. These 2 teams kind of limped into the playoffs, didn't play that great towards the end of the season, but I think it should still make for a pretty intriguing matchup. What do you think, Mason?
Yeah, I actually like this matchup a little bit more than I thought I did after looking into it. So the teams are pretty well matched as far as pitching. So pitching staffs, which I won't go too deep into this because I think you wanted to touch on it a bit. But the pitching staffs are a lot more comparable than you would initially think. Let's see, where'd it go? I had it pulled up, and apparently I closed it. And now it's backwards. So the Brewers are third in the league in in team ERA with a 3.50, and Atlanta's actually at number 8 with a 3.89. So they're not too far off there. Their frontline starters in Max Fried and Charlie Morton have been amazing in the second half, and then their bullpen has struggled a bit. But they do have some pretty solid players in that bullpen, with AJ Minter, Tyler Matzik, Jesse Chavez, Luke Jackson, and then you've got your tried and true guys that maybe they're struggling a little bit more this year than they normally would, and Chris Martin and Will Smith and Drew Smiley. But it's a team with experience, and it's a team that, even though they've not been playing great, has not been playing poorly. So... Then on the offensive side of the ball, let's see. Yeah, I closed too many windows here, so now it's screwing with me. On the offensive side of the ball, Atlanta has quite the advantage with a team WRC plus of 98, which is still below average. In Milwaukee, all the way down at 91, which is 23rd in the league. So I definitely think it's going to be a pitching heavy series, and you're going to see some pop from guys like Austin Riley and Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson and Ozzie Albies. That's going to be the difference there. If you see power from them, and then on the Brewers side from Avi and Eduardo Escobar and Willy Adames, I think it's who can outslug is going to be what happens here, because it's two kind of underwhelming offensive teams against two above average pitching teams. So
yeah, I'll tag on to your point about the pitching. So obviously no one can have any conversation about the Brewers without talking about Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta. I don't want to really talk about them because everyone knows that they're really good and everything, but just kind of the matchup, how they match up with Fried and Morton, who have been really good in the second half. Fried has the best ERA among qualified starters in the second half with a 1.74 ERA. Morton had a 3.01 ERA in the second half. So I think that difference between those top two starters is not really that big. It's probably, maybe you could argue that Burns and Woodruff are better than these two, but it's really not like a major advantage. And then the one thing that the Braves have going for them is that they get to face the Brewers lineup, which, to be honest, this is not a good offense. And it's definitely the worst offense that's in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, just for some background there, they have 6 guys that I would say are comfortably over 100 WRC plus. Colton Wong is the 6th there at a 109. And their top 5 guys are 109, 111, 112, 114, 115, and then Willy Adames at a 135 is really their only elite hitter.
Right, exactly. So, and it's they get to face the Brewers, and that's definitely a good thing for them. So they should be able to hang with them pitching wise, and I think they have a much better offense.
Yep, totally agree. You guys took all of my points. So I will state that the Braves have are scoring the most runs per game in the NL since the All-Star break. So they have, like we talked about, the offense that proves to back it up. As well, in their one matchup against Burns and Woodruff, they took it to them. Burns allowed a season-high 5 runs, and Woodruff allowed 3 runs in just 5 1/3 innings. So I agree with everything that was said. Atlanta's offense will be the difference maker.
Yeah, so I do think there's one other potential difference maker here, and it's something that people might not be as keen to, and that's going to be managerial style. I think Craig Counsell, I know Gowie and I have talked about it before. I think maybe, Matthew, you've been in on this as well, but Craig Counsell is probably one of the better managers in the league. He's always seems to know what he's doing as far as pitching changes and all that. And I was just looking at his managerial tendencies, and I think that this could play a huge factor in this series. So, Craig Counsell, like the stealing second rate, or basically telling his runners to try and steal second. 6.5% of the time, whereas Snitker is down at 5.3, which doesn't sound like a huge difference, but Snitker is 7% below average for managers in sends on steals to second. Counsell is 14% above average. The same trend with stealing third. Neither team sack bunts, so Gowie, you're going to be very happy about that. We will see probably 0 sack bunts in this series. But with the stealing though, it's big because while they're not a huge stolen base team, the Brewers do have where did it go? They have 6 guys that I think you would need to worry about trying to swipe that extra bag, especially in a game like this. And Lorenzo Cain and Colton Wong and Jace Peterson, who all had over 10 steals this year. Yelich, who was at 9. Avasile and Jackie Bradley were at 7 and 8. So I think that just small ball on the bases can be a big deal there. And Counsell tends to actually pull his pitchers less, which doesn't really make sense to me. But his pitchers per game is below average, whereas Snitker is pretty much exactly the average. So just seeing if Counsell can balance that and get through games, giving it to Hader, Aaron Ashby. Now I got to think of who's in the bullpen since Devin Williams winning.
Brad Boxberger's had a really nice season.
Has he really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about Brad Boxberger since he literally had the box and the burger on his Players Weekend jersey.
I wonder if him having used less pitchers is just a function of having 3 really good pitchers to eat up a lot of innings there.
Yeah, that's something that I was kind of wondering about too. But it's definitely not for lack of trying new guys, I guess is the way to say it. Because the Brewers this season have actually used 61 different players in the regular season, which is the most that they've ever used in a single season while Counsell was the manager. So just a little interesting tidbit there. And also, Craig Counsell, voice went out there, Craig Counsell is amazing at challenges. So if he's got a 71% overturn rate this year.
Okay, yeah.
So if Counsell challenges, he's going to get it. So, and Snitker, on the other hand, has a 16% overturn rate.
Oh, wow. So that one we can't really give Counsell all the credit, even though I do agree he's a great manager, but he's not the one that does the challenge. It's like the people in the back that watch the video and tell him to do the challenge.
Well, yeah, but it's still a huge factor that could change a game.
Yeah.
And
sure.
With the fact that the Brewers under Counsell are at 70% and Snitker's guys over at the Braves are at 16%, I definitely think this is going to be more of a tactical series, whereas the Dodgers Giants is going to be more who's more talented, who's hitting more baseballs. So
yeah. And one more thing, I will go now to the Brewers starters. So they're all really young, and they've never pitched this many innings in a season. Are we worried about them running out of steam or losing effectiveness as the postseason goes on? Let's say that they pass through this series.
They're young. They can survive. But I think an interesting part of that is kind of what Mason said. Counsell relies on his starters a lot and does a lot fewer pitching changes, and wonder if he'll try and rely on them even more given the loss of Devin Williams, knowing he doesn't have while they still have a good bullpen, it's not quite as good. And wonder if he'll try and stretch them out or push them even further, even if they're not doing as well because they're tired.
Yep.
It'll be
And
it'll be really interesting to see. And I think it's a little bit the same though on the Braves side, because like they've got a couple relievers that I said they've been doing pretty well, but then they've had the guys that are like their go-tos that have been really underwhelming recently. So how much does Snitker trust them, or does he try and have Fried and Morton go deep if they can? Is Huascar Ynoa going to be coming out of the bullpen? Which a fun tidbit for all you listening. This is the punching a wall and breaking your hand series, because I believe Huascar Ynoa did that pretty early on in the season. He's now back, and he's been pitching pretty well, but with him having that 2-pitch mix, he's slated for the 4th game. Will they bring him out of the bullpen potentially and use him?
I think so. I think that's definitely what they're going to do. I think he could be like a really big weapon for them. Because that, like you said, 2 pitches and that velocity playing up, I feel like he could be the trustworthy reliever for Snitker if he doesn't trust Will Smith and the rest of those guys.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested to see like how they deal with Ynoa, and then in Game 4, if it makes it to Game 4, what they do with the start there. Because if they use Ynoa out of the bullpen, are they going to use him to the point where he can't start Game 4?
Game 4, they could potentially go back to Morton.
Potentially. Is Morton getting the first game, or is Fried?
I think it's Morton, but not 100% sure on that.
Okay, they haven't announced their lineup yet, right? Or their roster. Sorry.
No, it's due tomorrow, so we'll find out. Yeah. Okay. Let's do some quick players here and then get out of here. So
we have to do our predictions for both series because we didn't do it for the last one.
Good call. Yeah. We'll finish up with the predictions, but first, Mason, who's your guy for the series?
Christian Yelich. Okay. He's been incredibly underwhelming this year, the entire season. Yelich has this season he's hit 248, 362, 373, which is pretty easily the worst season he's had in his career offensively. He still managed to hit for a 101 WRC plus, so he's pretty much league average. He's not really a hindrance, but he's not defensive wonderkin by any means either. Only 9 home runs, but he's a former MVP. In 2018, he was amazing. 2019, he followed up his MVP season by getting second in the MVP voting. And looking at all his peripherals, I don't really see a whole lot that's changed. He's pulled the ball a little bit less, to the tune of like 10% less, or 5 to 10 is now going oppo, that wasn't before. And he's topping the ball a lot, with the 43.9% of his batted balls being topped and hit into the ground. So if he can figure out in this series how to elevate the ball again, I think he'll be okay. But that's really the only thing that jumps at me as far as why he's been so bad. But this outfield is not terrifying at all offensively for the Brewers. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Willy Adames is really the only elite hitter on this team. So if they can get Yelich right, and he can just, for a couple weeks, do what Randy Arozarena did last year for the Rays and just be phenomenal, I think they have enough offense to win this series and potentially more. Yeah,
I think you're asking a lot out of Yelich to just all of a sudden figure it out. But then again, he is an MVP, and it is a very curious case because a player that elite should not become, an average player over such a short period of time. But I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yep. So, in my mind, if the Brewers want a shot here, they're going to have to hold Atlanta to 1, maybe 2 runs a game. And a starter can only do so much. So, big matchup I'm looking at is the bullpen, and specifically Aaron Ashby. he's going to be handed a much bigger role with Williams out. And if they want much of a chance, he's going to have to come in and be a lockdown reliever.
I like it, yeah, for sure. And even though he's a rookie, I feel like Council's still going to trust him to pitch in the really big spots, because I think he would much prefer Ashby to pitch than like Hunter Strickland or even Brad Boxberger, who's been pretty good. But
he's
Ashby's
definitely
the man.
He's definitely been trusting Ashby down the stretch here, and it's been working out for him for the most part. And we saw what he did last year with Devin Williams as a rookie, so he has no problems at all putting a rookie in these big spots. So
yeah. And then my guy is Willy Adames. So he's been injured, kind of in and out of the lineup for a few weeks. So he really needs to be healthy if the Brewers lineup is going to work at all. He's been awesome with the Brewers, and they need him plus a lot more, like you're saying, with Yelich and probably some other guys to contribute if they want to score enough. Or they have to hold the Braves to 1 or 2 runs, like you're saying, Matthew. And that seems like a very tough task.
And then have Vogie come in and hit a walk-off grand slam.
Exactly. So it's a pretty straightforward plan for the Brewers, to be honest. But
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's finish up with some picks. So back to Giants and Dodgers. Who you got, Matthew?
As much as I want the Giants to win, I'm going to go Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dodgers in 5.
I think because of how much we, over the course of the season, have undersold the Giants, and then how much hype there is with this Dodgers team right now, I can't sleep on the Giants again. I'm going Giants in 6.
6? It's a 5-game series, bro.
I was going to say.
Oh. They'll win it in 6. It doesn't matter.
I would prefer a 7-game series, but now I'm already regretting my pick.
All right, I'll take
Giants
in 4.
Okay, there you go.
One less than all. Okay, so we are going to have to start doing a corrections podcast for me every week, because apparently Will Middlebrooks was not a pitcher. He was a third baseman. Oh, well.
And anyway. Then Braves, Brewers, sorry, Mason.
Remember, it's a 5-game series.
A 5-game series?
5-game series.
Okay, so if I pick someone to win it in 2, is that acceptable?
They just manhandled them so badly that the team forfeited the 3rd game?
Correct. I think I'm going to go with Austin Riley in Atlanta in 4. I just don't trust the Milwaukee offense enough.
I'm going to take the Brewers in 4.
Who's Abbott taking?
Who's going to win? Oh, okay. Abbott is going to take the Braves in 3.
Wow, okay.
Sweep. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not ballsy enough to pick it, but I like it.
Yes.
Right.
So, yeah, regardless, we got some good series, I think, to watch starting tomorrow in the National League. Actually, all four series will be in play tomorrow.
I think games start at like 1:07 Eastern time tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And so you got baseball all day Friday from 1 p.m. to past 12 probably. So should be a fun one, and we're gonna be back with you probably early next week. Keep an eye on our social media on Facebook and Twitter at Getaway Day Pod, so you can see when we'll be podcasting next. If you want to watch live on Twitch, and then please follow us on YouTube or your favorite podcast app for those schedule updates, and make sure you don't miss any new episodes. With that, we're going to wrap up, and thank you for listening. We'll be back soon.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.